Braxcast time once again. This is the 46th episode of the Braxcast and is the first episode of 2025. So as the year starts, we don't have too much new news to get into. The Rippaverse Trinity did close up on Friday, so that collection is over. Made around $100,000, I believe. Last time I checked, it was like at $80,000, 1,000 books sold. So definitely a pretty good showing for the first omnibus. But speaking of numbers, we're going to go a little bit of a recap for 2024. Was definitely an amazing year. 3.7 million in book campaigns across the collection campaign for Yaira and the various collections. Of course, we had Horseman, Bloodruth, and Gooding were all released in 2024, along with the art of Joe Bennett. So definitely a really great showing for 2024. Of course, with the Rippaverse, we'll be getting 12 books, actually 13 books if you count Bloodruth #1, fulfilling at the end of this month being January. And we'll have 12 books getting released throughout the year. Given if everything the Rippaverse pans out the way that they're planning on it to be. Absolutely fantastic. To see that's going to be even more amazing with just all the content that they're planning. And this isn't even mentioning the Rippaverse. And like I said last episode, we'll probably get 3 to 4 more issues of the Rippaverse if they keep up if they get to and maintain a quarterly release schedule for the Rippaverse, which is what I really want them to be getting to. But that is just a little summary of Rippaverse's 2024. Another thing that was more interesting that I saw was that Bloodruth #1's final print numbers have been revealed. So cover A is at 4,200, cover B is going to be 1,500, cover C is 2,300. Of course, cover D is going to be that unlimited, so they're going to print as many as they need to maintain or to satisfy the demand for Bloodruth. And that black and white, only $15, only 3,000 copies of that. I do think that's a little bit of a missed opportunity to have black and white unlimited. Maybe you do that with a different cover after fulfillment of Bloodruth #1. Who knows? But I think a black and white is something that the fans really wanted, and I think that should definitely be something that I don't necessarily. I believe Deborah Carita did the black and white cover for this 3,000. You can get like the regular cover D, have it black and white, just so that way it's available for people who come into the Rippaverse after the Bloodruth #1 collection is over, or for the people who want I want it after it's sold out, if it sells out during the collection, right? So I think that's the only thing that's a bit of a missed opportunity, but everything else definitely seems right. Of course, cover C's, I believe that's that foil and embossed 2,300, but cover B is going to be the most limited. But that is the Bloodruth #1 collection numbers, or the print numbers for the Bloodruth #1 collection. Also want to show off that so far, $600,000 in total sales, and I definitely think that it's probably going to end up around the same place that Horseman did, a little bit over $800,000. With any of these campaigns or collections, you always get the initial rush of sales when it first opens, and then a flurry when it ends. That's how the Rippaverse Trinity went. I'm sure this is how Bloodruth #1 is going to go, because its fulfillment starts on the 20th, and I believe that's around the same time the collection. Actually, I think the collection ends on the 20th, and then fulfillment is guaranteed to happen within the first quarter. I imagine it's going to begin on that Monday, which is the 20th of January. So, like I said, I still think that this book could end up around the same place as Horseman. It's going to be very exciting to see how Bloodruth #2 goes as well, because this is definitely going to be an ongoing series. So we're going to see just how Bloodruth #1 performs at the end of this month, given that it launched on Halloween, and then if they launch Bloodruth #2 around Halloween again, or on Halloween again, it's going to be interesting to see how that performs, especially given the hype that surrounds the character ever since she was revealed, or ever since she made her first appearance in Isom #2. I think she's always had this fascination with her, but this is definitely a horror character. This is in comics, it's definitely a niche of a niche. So it's not going to be, you know, making the amount of money that other properties make, but it's definitely going to be a very respectable series. And I think in terms of just the intrigue that Bloodruth offers, and I'm going to show off this little bit here. The intrigue that Bloodruth offers is the most interesting thing to me. And this is not necessarily that, like, I'm a massive fan of horror, because I'm not really. It's just the story that's being told. And of course, the Saskas were on Twitter talking about how this is a story that is rooted in the Bible. So I think, you know, they didn't say anything specifically, but this being centered around the fall of Cain, this happens in Genesis, I believe Genesis chapter 4, where Cain kills his brother Abel, and then Lord asks him, where is your brother? Am I my brother's keeper? That's where that line comes from. It comes from the story of Cain and Abel. And the, you know, thing with that, Cain being banished from his mother and father, Adam and Eve finding a wife, and then the children of Cain being fallen and separate from God. Whereas Seth, their third son, I believe, if I'm getting my biblical genealogies correctly, is the one who is the ancestor of Noah and Abraham, and those are that's God's, you know, righteous people, right? That's where, you know, you have Israel, you have, you know, Abraham, Isaac, and Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Jacob being known as Israel, and his 12 sons being the, you know, formation of the 12 tribes of Israel. So this, you know, coming into play is really going to be interesting, and finding out if Bloodruth is a descendant of Seth or Cain. She could have been her family could have been the descendant of Cain, and God could have separated them out and used them to hunt ones who had the mark of the Dam. Of course, the blood powers, summoning other beasts, summoning beasts like the Shadow Wolves. Definitely, it does feel like there's a bit of demonic influence in terms of Bloodruth's power, Bloodruth's or her family's power. And we know based off of the Bloodruth #2 trailer that her entire family is dead, and her first coping with the loss of her family, and then trying to move past that and trying to bring them back into the land of the living, you know, like a bit of necromancy, which is forbidden in Deuteronomy. Which that's another thing. So, like I said, that's why it's a bit demonic. If she has a fallen bloodline, if she's working against the divine mandates that she was given to her family for whatever reason, it's going to be a really interesting thing to see. It's going to be very interesting to see how the Saskas set up her story in Bloodruth #1, how that's going to interact in Forest Park, and then of course just this idea of the family, the Bloodruth family. Right, because that's her surname. Her first name is Sydney. So this being a family, this being like a covenant made through her bloodline, pun intended, is going to be the most interesting thing. And of course, I don't have this art, but having this art where you see like the finger of God coming down, a man who decent chance was Cain, is also a very interesting thing. So this is definitely going to be a story that's rooted in the, you know, biblical, I would say, mysticism, right? You have, you know, Cain and Abel. You have a bunch of stuff that happens in Genesis. You have the rest of the Pentateuch. Those are the first 5 books of the Old Testament. The 5 books of Moses is called the Pentateuch. It's also called the Torah. I imagine this is going to be foundational to Bloodruth's story. Mostly is going to focus on Genesis. And there's also the Nephilim, which are giants. I've been playing Indiana Jones and the Great Circle, and they're a big part of the plot of that game, the Nephilim. So she could be facing off against giants, she could be facing off against fallen angels, she could be facing off against demons, and then of course, I imagine there are also other supernatural accepts in the world, because this is a bit of a spoiler for Yaira #1. At the end of Yaira #1, Yaira does encounter Neptune. Right, so you've got pagan gods in this story as well, and you've got Valadan and Dakari basically being gods. So there's definitely a lot of mysticism in the Rippaverse, and it's all boiling under the surface. And I definitely know that Bloodruth is going to give us it's going to be our first peek into the more mystical aspects of the Rippaverse. Bloodruth 2 is going to expand on that, and of course we're getting Norfolka, the Great Death, if I'm getting that, or Glorious Death, if I'm getting that subtitle correctly. It's going to be an even more of an expose into the mysticism of the Rippaverse, definitely having much more of a pagan lean, with Takari being based on African mythology and Valdon being based on Norse mythology. But it's all going to be extremely interesting, very much foundational to the world building of the Rippaverse, getting that mysticism out of the way, because we've gotten definitely more of the superhero stuff, more of the nitty gritty of Florist Park with Horseman and Alpha Core, and of course Isom basically introducing the universe and expanding upon it. I'd say decently well with Isom number 2, and hopefully Isom number 3 ties up everything with a nice bow on top and really sets up the Rippaverse are great future stories. And of course, like I said, Great War of Separation being its own book as well is going to give us even more world building. So this year, 2025, it's going to be foundational to building the world that is Rippaverse, and Bloodruth is going to be a big part of that. So there's a lot of mysticism that's going to be going on in the Rippaverse, and I definitely, like I said, Sydney Bloodruth is going to be instrumental in exposing that, because she can travel through the various realms, something only Dokuman can do. I hope that factors into the story of Bloodruth number 1. If not, hopefully Bloodruth number 2, and if not Bloodruth number 2, hopefully that is part of the ongoing series, because that is, I have to say, other than the biblical stuff, in terms of it being rooted into the let's say mythos, but the biblical narrative, right? That's established in the first 5 books of Moses, like I said before, is definitely extremely interesting to me, and I'd say just ahead of that is the fact that she can travel through other realms, like Dokuman can. Dokuman being the only other person who can do that, or only other being is probably the more apt word to use. So if she encounters Dokuman, it's going to be a very interesting thing, because Dokuman hasn't had any appearance in comics. We only know of him through his Dokuman archives with the first 2 sets, and of course we're getting that 3rd set with the Bloodruth number 1 collection. So that's going to be a very exciting thing to see. Get another set of Dokuman cards, get even more into that character set a little bit, but having him make an interior comic book appearance is going to be very exciting. I think if it happens, it's going to happen in Bloodruth's book. That's really just the way I feel about it. But all of that is definitely the more mystical and supernatural aspect of the Rippaverse, and like I said, this is really where we're going to really get into it, is with Bloodruth number 1, and then Norfolka, and then of course Bloodruth number 2, and as Bloodruth number 2 and the other issues in her ongoing series. But with that, I think I've said enough about as much about Bloodruth as I possibly can. Definitely can't say that much more until we actually get the book in our hands. Hopefully that happens at the end of this month, with fulfillment beginning right after that collection ends. Hopefully that is the case. We get the book, we can dive into it and really sink our teeth into that. And like I said, it's going to be like the blowing off the doors of the supernatural and the mystical aspects of the Rippaverse, and I'm definitely all here for it. But hopefully you guys are here for it too. You stay tuned in. But I don't have anything else for you right now. So Joker is out.
Thank you for tuning in to the Braxcast. Be sure to like, comment, follow, and subscribe to keep up with the Rippaverse.